Hey Chicas, welcome to Coding for Chicks. Today we're going to be talking about nested loops. And that means, for example, a for loop within a for loop. Or it could be a while loop within a while loop. Or a for loop within a while loop. It doesn't matter how you arrange it, it's still going to be a nested loop. So if we start with a for loop within a for loop, I'm just going to be using my range as I did in the first for loop video. So for I in range 0 to 10, I'm going to be printing out I. As you can see, this is just a simple for loop that's printing 0 to 9. To change it to a nested for loop, I'm going to remove the print statement and write for j in range 0.10. So I'm just repeating the same thing again. I'm doing it like this because I want to show you exactly what happens. So if I go print first for loop, then I'm going to add the variable from the first for loop here. And I need to typecast it, as you know, since this is going to be a string and this is going to be an integer. And then we're going to do the same for the second for loop. And then again, of course, the variable from the second for loop. Okay, we've got a bunch of text, so let's start at the beginning. As you can see, we start by 0 in the first for loop, and then we go to 0 in the second one. But in the second round, we're still in 0 for the first loop, but we're in 1 for the second one. So we keep a constant for the first one while we increase our number in the second one. And once we're finished with the second one, here, then we increase the number for the first one and start all over again. So the first is going to be stationary while we finish the second one, and then we're going to increment the first one by 1 and go a whole loop for the second one. I hope you understand. It's extremely common to use nested for loops while coding, so you're probably going to be using this a lot. I recommend you take a look yourself. Play with the range and start printing out for each loop to see what's really going on. This is going to become a little bit difficult to wrap your head around, but I'm sure you'll get it if you just try it out yourself. Now let's take a look at the while loops, shall we? I'm going to start by creating some counters. I counter 1 and I'm defining it as 0, and I counter 2 and also defining that as 0. I'm going to do exactly the same thing with my while loop as I did with my for loop. So it's going to be while I counter 1 is less than 10. And as always, I need to increment my counter. I counter 1 plus equals 1. But I want to print out before, so I put it in between. Print I counter 1. As you can see, we now have the same result as we had for our first for loop. So it's printing out 0 to 9. And as we did before, we remove the print command and add a while loop. While I counter 2 is below 10. Now this is the same as this, and this is the same as this. But I still need to add my incrementation to the second counter. So let's do that. Plus equals 1. Now I'm going to be copying these lines from here, so we don't have to write everything again. Oops, daisies. You see here, this guy is not in the right position. So we have to press backspace, backspace to get him in the right indentation, or nothing will work. And we also have to change this here. This here must be I counter 1, I counter 1, and this here is for the second loop, so I counter 2. I counter 2. Now let's take a look. We see the same wall of text again, and it all looks extremely familiar. So for the first loop, we're stationary, 0, 0, 0. And for the second loop, we're incrementing 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when we're finished with the second loop, we increment by 1 for the first loop and start all over again for the second. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the same as the for loop we had before. Now what I want to ask you to do is to create a for loop with a while loop inside or a while loop with a for loop inside. I think if you try that out, you might actually get a good understanding of how this actually works. I know the nested loops are going to feel a little bit complicated in the beginning, but don't worry, you're going to understand them sooner than you know. The only thing you have to do is actually use them. And here's a tip. If you want to understand something a little bit deeper, then try explaining it to somebody else. By doing so, you will realize what you actually don't know and which parts you need to work on. And then, in the end, you will know everything. If you like my video, please leave me a like. I would also love to read your comments. And if you would like to know when my next video is out, then I recommend subscribing to the channel. Thank you for listening. This is Coding for Chicks.